So we're actually going to go over two sections today. One is called the law of sines. The other is the law of cosine. Both sections have been taught in geometry, so we'll go through this quite quickly. So the first thing we're going to do is law of sines, and what you do with law of sines is it's a way for you to find the angles and sides of a non-right triangle. So for example, in this one, you see the angles A, B, and C. And so what we want to do first is just label its opposite side. So we know that the opposite side of A is A, but we write it in a lowercase a. So A, B, C. Law of sines is just saying sine of an angle to its opposite side is the same ratio throughout the entire triangle. So we can use law of sines if we know an angle and opposite side pair. For example, in this triangle ABC, the question says find AB. So AB is this one. I'm just going to write an X here. So what we want to do first is try to find an angle and side ratio. So for example, this angle, if we know its opposite side, we can use it, which we don't, so we can't use that one. However, we know this angle and this side, so we're going to write that down. Sine 39 degrees over 40 is equal to. Okay, so then what you want to do is now look for the side that you want. You want this side, which means you have to know this angle in order to use law of sines. At this point, we don't know what this angle is, but it's very easy to find because we have the other two angles, so we can use triangle sum to find this angle. So subtracting everything from 180 degrees, this side is 109 degrees. So we can set this up. Sine 109 degrees over side x. Now we just need to solve for x. And if you recall, we always solve these kind of questions with cross multiply. So we're going to say x times sine 39 degrees is 40 times sine 109 degrees. At this point, you can just use your calculator to solve this. Or you can take one step further and say, okay, I want to isolate x. X is being multiplied to sine 39. So we're going to just divide by sine 39 degrees. So x is equal to 40 sine 109 degrees over sine 39 degrees. Okay, now go ahead and put this all into the calculator. Please make sure that you do put parentheses around these. In this problem, it probably won't matter as much, but just as a good practice, go ahead and do that. Okay, so AB is 60.098. We're going to skip the area for now because I'll show you how to find the area later. Okay, so let's say for this next example, the question says find measure of angle C. C is this one over here. Again, we want to look for angle and side pair. We have this angle, we have this side. So that is perfect. We're going to just set that up. Sine 88 degrees over 26 equals. All right, we need this angle. So we need to know its opposite side, which we do. So that's great. We're going to write that out. Sine C over 21. Okay, let's go ahead and cross multiply again. Now, 21 sine 88 degrees is 26 sine C. Okay, now think about how you're going to find C. You're going to get rid of things that's farthest away from C. So C is this one here, is stuck inside sine and then multiply to 26. So the first thing to go is get rid of this 26. So we're going to divide everything by 26. So 21 sine 88 degrees over 26 is sine C. Now recall, how do you find an angle that's stuck inside sine? You're going to have to use inverse sine. Okay, that's going to get rid of this. So angle C is inverse sine of 21 sine 88 degrees over 26. Okay, go ahead and use the calculator to figure out what this value is. Okay, the answer is 53.823. All right, so now I'm going to ask you and your partner to pause the video and try to do this question. I'm not going to show you any work. You're going to try to solve this with your partner. I'm going to give you the answers, however, so you can verify that you did it correctly. And then when you submit the notes, I will double check that you did do the questions yourself. Okay, so you are going to combine some law of sines. You're going to combine some SOHCAHTOA in order to find these answers. Okay, so let me give you the answers really quickly. AC is 19.284. AB is 18.121. DB is 21.595. Whoops, 5. And area, we'll do this later, but the answer is 135.908. So remember to pause the video and actually show your work and find these values. So we were skipping these questions the whole time, the area of a triangle, because it's pretty easy and it's just a formula. So let's kind of label these sides again. So this is side A, this is side B, this is side C. If you want to find an area of a triangle and you don't have a right angle anywhere, because in order to find the area of a triangle, you have to do 1/2 base times height. Now base and height have to be right angles of each other. So in the cases where you don't have a right angle, you don't know the altitude, you have to just use this formula. Okay, what is this formula? The area of a triangle is just 1/2 two sides. So for example, A and B. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight A and B so you can see that. And then times sine of angle C. Sine of angle C, if you can see that, is here. So basically, if we take two sides and the angle in between and then just use this formula, 1/2 AB sine C, we're good. So let me kind of write it in a different way so you can see how this works. Okay, let me erase this. Okay, so for example, let's say we have another two sides. 1/2, we can just do BC. BC are these two. If we're going to use BC, we have to use sine A, because A is the angle in between. Okay, so you can see how this works, right? So the area is always 1/2, two sides, and then sine of the angle in between. So again, the last formula would be 1/2 AC sine B. Okay, now we're going to go back to the previous pages and then find the area of all of them. So let's go ahead and go back to the first page of the section. All right, so let's take a look at this first example we skipped. So find the area. We need two sides and the angle in between. So since we already found the side X and then we already know this side is 40, we have this angle in between being 32. We can just say this is 1/2 40 times, in this case, X is 60.098 times sine 32 degrees. Using the calculator, this is 636.939. So very simple. You just need to remember you have to have two sides and the angle in between. So let's go ahead and have you try this one. Find this area. Okay, the area is 168.947. And let's go on to the other area that we skipped that you and your partner have to do. Okay, so this question is pretty simple as well. Once you have the sides of two sides that's in this triangle ACD and the angle in between those two sides, you can find this angle, this area. Now let's go on to law of cosine. So in law of cosine, what we want to do is kind of build on law of sines. So in law of sines, we need the angle and its opposite side that kind of ratio in order to find all the other parts that are missing. However, in the law of cosine, it's used when we don't have an angle and side pair. For example, let's look at this one. This question says find all the missing lengths and angles. So that means we need to find this one, and this one. In order to use law of sines, we need a side and angle pair. That means if we're using this angle, we need this side. If we're using this side, we need this angle. If you're using this side, we need this angle. Now you can see that we can't have any one of those. Even if we try to use triangle sum, it won't happen. We don't have two angles. So we're stuck with using law of cosine. Now, what is law of cosine? Law of cosine is very simply Pythagorean theorem. So, for example, Pythagorean theorem says a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we're going to just kind of take the example here, c squared. So c squared would equal a squared plus b squared. Now, if you recall, Pythagorean theorem only works on right triangles. So this is not going to work. So there are some parts we have to subtract out. So we're going to subtract out 2ab cosine c. Cosine, because we're saying this is the law of cosine. Now we can go back and kind of fix or write it for every formula, because you can see here there's a pattern. A squared plus b squared and a minus 2 what? A and b. So you can see it's these two sides here, and then cosine c being the side here. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill it out for the a squared one. So what do you think the formula is for a squared? It's going to be b squared plus c squared, the other two sides, minus 2bc cosine a. Pretty simple, right? Let's go ahead and practice writing the one for b squared. B squared is going to equal a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine b. All right, let's go ahead and practice finding these then. Okay, so the question says find all the missing sides. So for example, let's say, let me label these. So this side is side A. So let's say we're going to try to find side A first. So we're going to use this formula because this one has side A, and that's the one we're looking for. So we're going to say this is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine A. Okay, let's go ahead and put in everything we know. We don't know a, so we're going to write a squared. B is this side, 21. So 21 squared. Plus C is this side, 42. So plus 42 squared minus 2 times 21 times 42 times cosine of the angle A, which is 39 degrees. Okay, you're going to just calculate all this. Now, please be careful. You do have three separate terms. You have this one, and you're going to subtract this whole thing. So I strongly suggest that you don't type everything in the calculator unless you know exactly what you're doing. Okay, so go ahead and actually type in everything separately. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to type in 21 squared. So that's 441. 42 squared is 1764 minus, and I'm going to multiply 2 times 21 times 42 times cosine 39 degrees. That is 1370.885. We want to not round until we get to the very end. Okay, I'm going to add all those together. Answer is 834.115. Okay, a squared. Okay, this is a squared, not a. So what we want to do is now square root that. A is 28.881. All right, that's good. So this is 28.881. All right, now what you want to do is you need to find the rest of the angles. That means you need to find this angle and this angle. Law of cosine has a little bit of a problem. I'm sorry, not law of cosine, law of sine. So, since we know this side now, we have a tendency to want to just say, oh, let's just use law of sines. You could, but there might be a problem. law of sines can't find any angles larger than 90 degrees. So it can't find an obtuse angle. So if, it kind of looks like C is quite big, might be bigger than 90 degrees. So if I were to use law of sines on this, I might not actually find the correct angle. So what I'm going to do to ensure that I don't make a mistake is I am going to continue using law of cosine. What does that mean? I'm going to use law of cosine to find the biggest angle that I think is in this triangle. So looking at A, B, and C, looks like C is the biggest one. So I'm going to try to find angle C. So how do I find angle C? I'm going to use the law of sines version that contains angle C. So in this case, this one, because this one has angle C there. So what I'm going to do is use that formula. So C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine C. All right, so I'm going to put everything I know in there besides except cosine C. So C squared, sine C squared is 42 squared equals we just found 28.881 squared plus B is 21 squared minus 2 times 28.881 times B times cosine C. C is the unknown one. Okay, now what I'm going to do is try to figure out what cosine C or C is. Now, this is a little bit tricky because you need to be really careful with your calculation. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract that from here. Okay, if you want, you can definitely square everything first and then go from there, which might not be a bad idea. Let me do that. 42 squared is 1764 equals 28.881 squared is 834.112. I had 115 before. Let me just use 115. Okay, plus 21 squared, 441. All right, this part here is the coefficient of cosine C. So what we want to do is multiply those three numbers together. 2 times 28.881 times 21. Okay, this is going to give you minus 1213.002 cosine C. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is just subtract this. Okay, let's not add this. We cannot add that. We're eventually going to divide, but let's just do one thing at a time. So take 1764, that's this number, and then we're going to subtract those other two numbers. So 1764 minus 834.115, and then minus 441. Okay, the answer is 488.885. Okay, this is equal to negative 1213.002 cosine C. Now, we are not going to add because this is the coefficient of cosine C. So we need to divide by 1213.002 on both sides. Okay, so take that number, divide by negative 1213.002. This is going to give me negative 0.403, which is equal to cosine C. And now you know the drill, inverse cosine. So angle C is equal to 113.768. So it is over 90 degrees. And if we were to use law of sines, we would not have been able to find that number. So this is 113.768. And you know how to find angle B, so I'm going to just skip that. Let's go ahead and have you pause the video, and you're going to try this with your partner. You're going to find the missing sides and their area. So there's quite a few of them. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so check your answers once you have shown your work on the notes and you did go ahead and find everything. For what is this? For number 2, you see here angle C is unknown. So if you had trouble before and saw that this is an obtuse angle, you really should start there, because if you were to use law of sines, it would give you a lot of problems. So that's that. Okay, now let's go ahead and have you try the last one. So this one, hello, hello, hello. You see here, it says to solve the triangle. What solve the triangle means is you want to find all the missing sides and angles if there are any angles. So this one, so just label it A, B, C. It's probably not going to be very accurate. So side A is 9, side B is 7, and side C is 5. And then so solve means find everything else. That means we need to find angle A, B, and C. Okay, again, pause the video. Go ahead and try it with your partner. Now, I have a hint here. So since this side is the longest side, and if you recall from geometry, longest side belongs to the biggest angle. The opposite angle is the biggest angle. So it's very likely that angle A is the largest angle. So you should start there. All right, go ahead and pause the video and then go ahead, try the problem. Come back and check your answers. All right, here are the answers to this question. Go ahead and submit your notes and for chapter 13 and 14.